Hey everybody, it's Laurencia with See the Good, and we are back with another episode. Today we are sitting with the lovely Allie Manning. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. It's just usual Memphis heat.
We are trying our best to get through it. So I've sat down with artists, actors, business people. I have never sat down with a scientist.
Wow.
Like, do you know how
Thank you.
cool that you are?
Thank you.
You are literally, I'm just like, does Memphis know that this gem is here? So I'm very
Thank
excited
you.
to talk to you
Thank
today.
you.
Before we get into the questions, I wanted to play a little game.
Okay.
And it's called Myth or Fact. So I'm going to ask you some questions, some common misconceptions that people may have, and you tell me if this is a myth or if it's a fact.
Oh.
So first, brown eggs are healthier than white eggs.
That is a myth.
Really?
It all depends on the hen. It comes from the hen. There's no nutritional difference. So that's a myth.
Okay. Next is microwaves destroy all of the nutrients in food.
Oh, that's a myth.
It's like, where are
That's a
people getting
myth.
this?
Well, you know, if you heat it up to the fullest capacity till it's black, maybe, but ultimately you're heating up the particles, the water particles in the food, and steam is releasing, and there you go.
Okay.
It's just warming it up.
All right. Next up is sugar makes kids hyper.
Probably. It depends on the sugar, right? Corn syrup is highly processed. It might have some issues with digestion, but ultimately, if you're going with something like light brown and brown sugar is nutritionally equal to white sugar as well. Brown sugar is made using molasses.
Okay.
Did you know that?
Nope.
Yep. So,
Learn
you
something
know,
new every day.
it depends. There are other like non-calorie sweeteners like a stevia plant or monk bean, which is also used in the food industry. But I don't know about hyper. Yes, I think so. It just really depends on the one that you're getting to.
Okay. Sounds good for all the parents out there. Next, the 5-second rule is safe. If you pick up food fast enough, it's still clean.
I plead the fifth on that one. I plead the fifth on that one.
We're not going to get into it. Next up is frozen fruits and vegetables are less nutritious than the fresh ones.
You know, frozen fruits and vegetables are generally frozen at their peak freshness. So unless you're looking at the detailed analysis, I would say that's a myth.
Okay.
I'd say when you're picking it fresh, obviously you're getting the most nutritional value because it's right there from the source.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe a little bit. I don't know, that's a trick question.
And last one, all bacteria in food is harmful.
No. All is the key word there. You know, I think when it comes to bacteria and how it grows, time and temperature are those two factors. So making sure that you store food properly, wash your ingredients well, make sure that you're not having any cross-contamination is going to be your best way to preventing food-borne illnesses. So yeah.
She knows her stuff. We just have to test you real quick. You know what you're talking about.
You know I do the best I
Okay,
can.
so let's go ahead and get into it. So tell everyone, where you grew up and what was your relationship with food and science as a kid?
You know, I grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. And what's great about growing up in such a nurturing environment is that we always had a garden. Yes. We always had pecan trees, or the pecan.
Yeah.
Right.
Pecan. I say pecan.
Pecan, okay. And, I always had access to fruits and veggies. So I knew the importance of growing my own food early on because I saw it.
Yeah.
I still remember sitting in my little red wagon with my tomatoes and my little salt and pepper, and I would just eat tomatoes.
Yes.
And so it's always been important. And so growing up in Alabama, I always grew up around farmland, too. My high school mascot was a buck. And so, I grew up in the country. And when you grow up in an environment like that, you kind of understand more about your community, more about where food comes from. And I was really tapped in early on. And so in Huntsville, Alabama A&M University is a college that exists, and I grew up around that university. And because it's an agricultural and mechanical university, it was kind of a natural pathway for me to enter into food science and biology. And so here we are.
Okay, sounds good. Now, I did a little bit of research, and I saw that initially you were on the medical route. So what field were you looking to go into, and what kind of triggered that transition?
Yeah, I was going into dermatology. I wanted to heal folks' skin. And so that was the path that I was going, biology pre-med. And it wasn't until I had gone to Meharry Medical for a summer intern that I sat in that classroom and I said, I don't want to be in med school for the rest of my life. I don't want these bills, And so at that time, it was my sophomore year or so, and I said, why not I just, take a pause? But I kept going, and I ended up sitting in on a lecture in the food science department. And the professor said, you'll always have a job because people have always got to eat. And my little, teenage brain was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a job. That's what I'm supposed to do. And so I changed my major 2 weeks later, and he was right. I got a job in food science as a food chemist. 3 weeks later, I moved to Memphis, Tennessee. And so, it was such an interesting journey, but I held on to those light bulb moments and just moved throughout life that way.
Clearly, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. How has Memphis kind of helped shape and mold your career, do you think?
Yeah, this is where I got my foundation. They said if you can make it in Memphis, you can make it anywhere. And I started out in food chemistry. I worked at the manufacturing level, building my foundation for what it means to work a 12-hour shift. I was working 2 weeks on days, 2 weeks on nights, 2 weeks on days, 2 weeks on nights for 3 years, missing holidays and parties, and I said I needed stability. Stability is what I want now, and moved into more of a research and development role as a food scientist. And so I worked out in Bartlett at a company for about 5 years, just building my resume, learning how to speak, learning how to present, talking to the sales team, going on trips. Like, it was good for my career until I had reached a ceiling. I felt like I was being stifled and targeted. I was told not to wear these colors and not those colors. And, it began to feel like I was in a box. And not to mention, we didn't have any windows. Like, I worked in a lab. Imagine a scientist with a lab coat on, with the glasses, running studies all day. All day long. And so, after wanting more meaning in my life, I couldn't seem to find my way out of that job. And so I was fired. I was fired and freed into my purpose now. And so that's why I talk a lot about, what does it mean to be a food scientist? I talk about who I am. I want little kids to see me, see that Black food scientists exist. And Memphis has really nurtured my work. The panini, I call it the panini, because I don't even want to talk about the pandemic. But, it was a time for me to focus on what I wanted to do. After I got fired, I sat there for a couple months, and my husband said, we'll figure it out. And so he gave me the space to do that. And Umami was formed, Umami Food Consulting. And so I set out to help food entrepreneurs, and then a book came, and then Food Science for Kids came, and then Netflix came. And it's just been insane. It's been insane. And that's why I say fired to freed, because it really did free my creativity and freed me into my purpose and passion.
For sure. So Memphis has really, really been a great, great help. So segueing into your career, we're definitely going to touch on all of your different endeavors, because you are a busy woman. Can you just give a simple or basic definition of what a food scientist is to somebody that has never heard of the term, doesn't know what that career entails? What would you tell them that is?
Food science is a blend between art and science. It is a pathway for creativity. I think people don't understand where food comes from, and many times the marketing agencies don't do a great job of that, but we're applying all of the science disciplines or scientific disciplines like biology, right? How does it function in our body? So those are your nutritionists. Then you think about agriculture, right? And so you can go into the FDA or USDA. Or you talk about culinarians like chefs, right? That's a form of food science. And so I try to make it accessible and interesting. But essentially, we apply the scientific disciplines to study how food reacts, how food functions in our bodies, and how it can be grown and stored for safety.
Yeah. Also, can you kind of speak to the rich but often overlooked history of African Americans in food science and innovation? Because I know that's really big to you.
Yeah, it's less than 1% of Black farmers in the U.S. When we sowed those seeds years ago, and it's important for people of color to come into the industry to disrupt it. Not only disrupt it, but to understand how these systems were designed to create these health issues for Black and brown people. And at the time, I don't think I realized I wanted to enter into the industry, right, to change it. It was more of, I've got a job now. I'm doing what mom and daddy said to do. So let me do this for a while. And it wasn't enough. And so I wanted to find meaningful work. And now, as I've gone throughout these years, I know that there are so many other Black food scientists out there. We are connected now more than ever. Netflix blew the lid off of what a food scientist is. And not to mention the co-star was also a classmate of mine. Lauren Jude was also a classmate of mine. And so we're out there in the forefront bringing this to everyone's attention to guide now and provide knowledge that isn't always available if you're not in the science or food industry.
I love that. Speaking of meaningful work, let's kind of get into food science for kids. Can you walk us through, first of all, tell us what it is, and then give us an example of a session that you have for the kiddos.
Food science for kids was literally birthed from an Instagram poll. I said, does your kid like food? Does your kid like science? That's simple, right? I got 1 or 2 yeses, and I started during 2019. And every week I'd load on to Zoom and I'd send out a supplies list, and families would come together. No matter if they had $50 or $15, I said, well, come, let's learn. And so we learned together, although we were apart for 7 months, just virtually. All over the globe, I taught students and families. And they would just find me on social media or word of mouth. Interesting articles would pop up. And so that was how Food Science for Kids was birthed. But I really wanted to fill a gap in food education for little ones and bring people together, And so it was like people would hear about that, the Overton Park Shell call. Folks would hear about that. The Botanic Garden would call. And it was more opportunities for me to plant seeds. And so Food Science for Kids now is a food educational program for grade school students to understand food science, nutrition, and literacy. It's important for them to understand the components of food in order to make healthier choices, because so many of our young people are dealing with obesity and heart disease and a lack of energy, and so, I've got about 75 programs and activities. I'm building curriculum now. There's some new opportunities with companies throughout the city, to build this out and develop more programs for students.
I just think that's very interesting because I never felt like I was kind of like a science kid. So how is it seeing, the little ones kind of be like, oh my gosh, this is cool once they're kind of getting into it?
I love it. I love it so much. I always hear parents talk about how they remember that seed planting activity as a child. And that's where I began, right? because food comes from the seed. And if I make it more relatable for us, right, and I'm coming in the classroom with colorful clothing and food, right, then they can get excited about this profession. They can get excited about food and actually feel confident enough to speak up for themselves, you know? And science is not intimidating. It's not. It's in everything that we do. You
Literally.
cook, right?
Yes.
Do you do a little gardening from time to time?
My mom does. I kind of try to help her out a little bit, but for sure I've been around it.
When you're building flavors, when you're developing your recipes, that's food science. And so I want people to see that what we do at the bare minimum level is important, but also at the maximum level, because we're dealing with this issue of food waste, right?
Yes.
40% of food waste is happening throughout the U.S. yearly. And we're wasting money, we're wasting resources, and we're creating an environmental issue. And so when we begin to understand how long it takes to grow a tomato in our backyard, like, then maybe we won't waste those little containers of cherry tomatoes, right?
Yeah.
We can pickle them, or we can make tomato jam. And so that's kind of the work that I do with Project Green Fork, you know, when it comes to restaurant sustainability and helping local restaurants operate with a more eco-conscious mindset.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure. And also with kids, you also have a children's book. Can I play with my food? So what inspired you to create this book and center it around, you know, a sister duo?
You know, this book was inspired by me getting back to all of my childhood
That inner
loves.
child.
Yeah,
and letting
that
it come
inner
back
child
out.
healing. Yes. You know, and this was another, you know, opportunity birthed from the pain, birthed from the pandemic, loneliness. Yeah. And so I started drawing again. And I just started getting downloads of information. And it started to just create a story. And the story formed. And I got to a point where I couldn't draw like chickens. Couldn't draw like, you know, characters. And so I hired an illustrator. And so it was probably midway through the book where I got the question, like, should this be sisters or should this be friends? And I transitioned to sisters, like my sister Alexis. And so Lexi is one of the characters in the book, and Nima and Lexi are exploring where food comes from. And they start at the dinner table with mom, and they're asking the question, where does food come from? And she's explaining. And then throughout the day, they're able to imagine where they could be, and they're able to imagine themselves flying through the grocery store on a Pop-Tart magic carpet. And I don't know, all these things came up, but I said, I'm writing a book. It could be mine, you know, even if it's
Anything
imperfect.
can happen.
And I said, well, how do I dump everything that I know on a general level and put it in a book for a second grader, early reader, and encourage them to explore and play with their food again, because we've been told so many times, don't play with that food, you better eat that food, you know? And I want to challenge that by saying food science is about play. Food is a science. Why don't we play together? And I always continue to find joy in childlike fun is because I explored that again and uncovered this. And now it's been used as second grade book club material, and it's been used in giveaways, and it's nice to see that this has been so successful for so many parents who are dealing with children with special needs or eating disorders. And I now see that this could be something greater.
Sure. Yeah. I actually wanted to ask, because the characters have Down syndrome. So what kind of inspired that, and how does that shape your narrative?
Yeah, you know, my sister Alexis has Downs, and so growing up, I saw her issues with eating, the feeling of satiety, fullness. She wouldn't really get full, or she'd only want crackers or something that, you know, the texture thing. And then, you know, I said, well, I don't have the power to speak up as a kid, but what can I do now as an adult? And so I'm able to tell her story and honor my sister.
I love that. What was kind of her reaction to the book?
You know, she was excited. She was sitting there with the book, flipping through the pages. And because she's nonverbal, I don't know if she truly understands the impact, but I do want children with special needs to be able to experience this, and I honor her.
I love that. Also wanted to get into your food consulting business.
Yeah.
Umami, is it? Is that how you say it?
Umami.
Okay.
Umami is fine.
What does that word mean?
Yeah. So umami is our fifth sense. So we've got salty, sour, bitter, sweet, and umami. Umami is savory. And so it's a Japanese term.
Okay.
And way in the middle of the night, I was trying to figure out what is the name of my business, and umami came to me, and I felt like I offered a breadth of knowledge, and with savory foods like pot liquor, right? You're offering a breadth of flavor, and so I knew I had a breadth of knowledge to share.
Okay, wow.
And so I started with the focus of helping food entrepreneurs, and I worked with product developers. I worked with Slim and Huskies and a couple of other national brands, and Food Science for Kids has really been that torch for me.
Okay.
I feel like this is where the greatest impact will come with food education.
Okay, for sure. So what all, aside from like product development, do you do with umami?
Yeah, so nutrition labels, of course, that's all that product development. I'm contracted with Project Green Fork, which is great. And then I also have camps and special programs throughout the year. Right now, building curriculum is the focus. And I also have a new show coming. Number one, the Daily Glow Show with Allie and Alex on WRG Plus.
Okay.
But also the Colorful Life with Allie, which is specifically at Levana Children's Hospital. And so I do that once a quarter, and I talk to patients and families about this work. And it's called The Colorful Life with Allie.
Wow, you have just, I need your schedule. How do you just have so much free time to do all these things? I wanted to ask you, because you've worked with so many different food companies. I saw McDonald's, Chick-fil-A, Sonic. How did you kind of get to do those, and what all did you do with them?
Yeah, and that was during that period of research and development when I was a scientist at a company out in Bartlett. And, that was about matching flavors. That work was simply about testing product, matching flavors. So when I say matching flavors, I'm meaning Sonic reached out to us about a cheaper version of a sauce. Like might have been a honey mustard or sweet and sour, right?
Yeah.
And so we would work in the lab behind the scenes, matching flavors. So we would taste, then develop the product, then send the sample out. The team at Sonic would taste it, compare the color, right? We're analyzing color, flavor, smell, mouthfeel, right?
Yeah.
And of course, we're doing analytical on it. And then we're matching it, right, for price.
So they're substituting so that they're not spending as much, pretty much. Okay.
It might be a cost thing, and many of the times, marketing drives a lot of what happens in the food industry. What are consumers doing? And so then they're watching consumers and consumer behavior to drive these things as well. So we're doing research on new products or sustainable packaging, or we might look at what's happening in the industry and how we can shake some stuff up. But that's pretty much it. When I did that work with them, I will say Chick-fil-A was probably one of my favorite studies because we tasted fries all day. Fries and chicken from Chick-fil-A for free.
Wow.
But the bad thing about it was we were throwing away this stuff as well.
But you weren't
as much as we were testing it, we were throwing it away.
Yeah.
And so that's why the work that we're doing with Project Green Fork is so important, because we talk to companies about how they can reduce their food waste and divert it from the landfill by connecting with rescue organizations or last mile organizations that are serving people in need of food.
Okay.
So yeah.
I was gonna say, I was wondering why Sonic went from them skinny fries to them crinkly, crunchy fries. They should have stayed doing what they were doing.
And that, that's
So, what's kind of like a common mistake that you see restaurants kind of make when they're like trying to develop their products?
A common mistake I find is that there's not enough understanding about how long the process actually takes to develop a product.
Yeah.
It could take 6 months, it could take 6 weeks, or 6 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think folks understand all the paperwork that that you have to go through in order to actually get a product on the shelf. And so I do a lot of consulting and liaisons between labs or co-packers, you know, in order to kind of serve as that midway point for people who don't quite get it. But yeah, that's one of the main things that I find is wanting to develop a product from grandma's recipe without any testing, without any recipes and numbers is not the way to start a food product.
I got you. Where are the cards at? So I feel like a lot of small businesses, they kind of want to serve healthy options, but like indulgent options. So what advice do you have for them when they're trying to like strike that balance?
I would say put over the door moderation. Eat it in moderation. You know how they say drink responsibly?
Yeah.
I think that'd be really good if a company said, well, we're all about balance here, and had, you know, a side by side of something indulgent and also healthy. So yeah, eat it in moderation. Ultimately, people are going to do what they want to do. I think sometimes food entrepreneurs bite off more than they can chew. And I think ultimately minimizing the menu, using sustainable resources, and implementing a system for reducing your footprint will help the longevity of restaurants to come.
Okay. I also want to get into just you being a creative, you being on the screens. Talk to me about Netflix's Snack versus Chef. How did that opportunity come about? What was it like?
Yeah, you know, that was so much fun. In 2021, they reached out to me via Instagram. RIP to my old page right now.
Yes, we're going to plug you at the end. We're going to make sure you get the followers back up.
Yes. You know, they reached out to me on Instagram and asked me to interview for the show. There was no name. There was not a lot of information, but I did. I interviewed for the show. We had to take all these mental health exams and everything. But we went off to Connecticut to film for about 2 months. But this was 2021, right? So we spent 14 days in quarantine. Yeah.
Dang.
14 days in quarantine.
Gosh, that doggone panini messed
that
everything
panini.
up.
And so it was amazing. You know, they asked us, they told us the framework of the show, but we didn't really understand till we got there. They said, go ahead and develop your own snack that could go on a vending machine. And so I was like, well, I want to make something like a global roll, you know, where students can try different, or children can try like a fruit roll up with different flavors from different parts of the globe.
That's interesting.
In case they don't travel, they can try this roll, and you know, it's like fruit roll up. So I was like, okay, that might be kind of cool. And so I did a couple of other tests. And so we all got there. It was, how many of us? 12, I guess. And we couldn't talk to each other. It was the weirdest
This
thing.
reminds me so much. I don't know if you watch Love Island, like where they're all just like put up in the hotel until they're told, "Oh, you can come out now."
Right? That's exactly what it was. That's exactly what it was. And so, so the day of filming, we're all sitting in this humongous room. We can't talk to each other, right? And they pull us to the set, and mind you, this is, fun fact, the same set as Forged in Fire.
Wow.
Yeah. So they redid it so it could be a lab and a bodega, right? So when we walk in, we're like, what? This is amazing. Stacks everywhere.
Yeah.
And we didn't know the name of the show. And on the first day, which was the most exciting day, my name fell from that doggone vending machine. And I ran out on the floor and we started making hot Cheetos. And when I tell you, that moment really transformed my life. Because you're sitting there, standing there with adrenaline pumping, trying to remember your recipe, even though you have your book.
Yeah.
Right? And then the producers are asking you questions. Not only that, you've got 3 cameras in your face.
Let me work.
It was wild. And the timer's going off because you only have an allotted amount of time. So, needless to say, it was an incredible opportunity. I met some amazing people. We were there every 8 episode, well, all 8 episodes were in each of them. We were there the entire time for each other, and we're still really cool to this day. And what's great about it is when it came out a year later and I saw the real, you know, the show, I said, oh, She's a star.
She is star material. So if they were to do like another season, would you like to potentially be like would you like to judge?
Yeah, I want to be a judge. That would be so much fun. And they had a couple judges that were comedians and some were food scientists. I think you might have seen it. And I think I would have had a different flair for sure. But it was fun. I learned a lot.
That's so amazing. I was watching your video with FaZe Rug where basically he wanted you to recreate snacks that were like already made. What was that process like? Because I haven't watched him in a while, but he's like a big deal. Like millions and millions of subscribers and followers and things like that. So what was kind of your reaction to that?
It was wild. Once again, Instagram, you know, FaZe Rug's clan, his cousin,
Posse.
Clint, reached out to me and had seen me on Netflix. I need to slow down. I'm excited. He had seen me on Netflix and reached out, and they wanted to do this really fun episode about recreating famous YouTuber snacks. And I was like, I don't know who FaZe Rug is, even though he's got 27 million followers and he's, you know, got this what generation is
Gen
it?
Z?
Gen Z following. And I was like, okay. And so because my mom works for NASA, I was like, Mom, check this guy out for me. I don't know who these people are. And so everything was great. And we started collaborating about this process. And so they were like, can you develop these products but make a spin on it?
Yeah.
We're thinking about a strawberry flavored Feastables. We're thinking about recreating hot ones, And I'm like, oh, okay. And so I did some testing. I did a couple of rounds of testing at home, and then I flew out to California and we did it live, at his home. It was amazing.
I know that he was saying like at the end, like his goal is for like some of the owners to like reach out and kind of like take some of the products on. Has that happened yet, or I'm still waiting?
Nobody has reached out yet, but the video almost has 6 million views, lots of great comments, and I'm hoping we can do another collab.
So that would be dope. That would be dope.
All right, Brian, let's do it.
It was such a good video. But you just said something that I did not find in my research. I need to tap my hand a little bit. Your mom worked for NASA?
Yeah, she has been a software engineer and now manager for 35 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was that kind of like experience like, having a mom that just did something so monumental and then you kind of just follow in her footsteps?
I did. I love her to death. She's amazing. I have an incredible mom. Super smart, super creative. She has her own business as well, and so loving. You know, she always encouraged education, but she also was the one to push me out of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
I was just way too shy, way too quiet, and she saw something in me early on and really, really honed that in me, and also told me I was beautiful.
Yeah.
And that really helps as a dark-skinned woman in Alabama. And
especially
growing up in
in the
Alabama in the South, and she reiterated how proud and how special I was.
Love that.
So I
Instilling
love
that confidence in you. Yes, Miss Alice. Okay. I just had to ask you that because I was like, wow, that's interesting. So going back to just your media and visibility, you also do segments for Live at 9. So tell us about that.
So much fun. You know, I have met some incredible people at Live at 9. At News Channel 3, and Kanji Anthony is my mentor. Right? Amazing woman. She had been following my journey, and she invited me to the stage and said, this is what I'm thinking. What are your thoughts? And I said, sure. But one of the most amazing things she told me, she said at the end of our conversation, she said, you're global. And I couldn't fathom, you know? And so we started working on, you know, this continuous reoccurring segment in February 2023, and I've been on every month as the food scientist, the contributor on Live at 9 with Kanji Anthony. And so it's been great building out my own show, creating my own set, right? Figuring out what things work, what don't. It's been amazing. And the team up there is awesome.
Amazing. Do you kind of still get the jitters a little bit since it's live, or have you kind of like become confident in it?
You know, I have to be confident. But if you're not nervous, then you're not alive. So I was on just last week and thinking to myself, did I do enough? And I play it back one time, and then I'm done. I try not to overanalyze myself.
Yeah, for sure. Because I'm like that as well. Like, I can only watch my interviews one time. I can't, hearing my voice, seeing my hair was sticking out, I can't do too much of that. So you've had so many amazing moments. What do you think has been like your pinch me moment? Like, oh my gosh, is this real? Is this really happening?
Wow. There have been so many. Wow.
So many to think through.
What? And it's related, but it is related. You know, I served on the Overton Park Shell Professionals Board 3 years before coming onto the board this year.
Yeah.
And seeing the Overton Park Shell now as Memphis's first green venue feels so special. Like, that hard work that I've been doing is paying off. And we had a 75% diversion rate the night of our event, the launch of the event, which was, I think, June 20th. And I just believe that could be a shift. That could create the ripple that we need for more attractions and venues, and schools and museums to implement these zero waste events and divert waste. So that was a really special moment beyond Netflix, beyond, you know, that's been amazing. But to see that happen in my community and be a part of it is huge for me.
And you're helping it grow, and you're doing what you need to. Memphis is such a special place, and it has so much room for improvement and so many things to come. And I know that, like, they're in good hands. We're in good hands to deal with you.
Thank you.
So just looking ahead, I wanted to ask, what's next for you? Any new segments, projects? What do you have coming up?
Yeah, the Daily Glow with Allie and Alex is coming this fall. It is a new podcast TV show on WRG Plus, and it is an ode to Memphis. It's also honoring what makes us glow. The city and ourselves as well, through wellness, through food, through lifestyle. But it's a really cool opportunity to be building a show from scratch, selling it and saying, what do you all think about it? Join us for this really cool opportunity. So that's the big thing. I'm speaking at the end of the year at the First 8th Conference, Lord willing, early education conference about this work. I do believe that food science is the pathway, like I said, to generational healing and health. And I want to talk more about that. And so I hope to be doing that this fall. And The Colorful Life with Allie at Le Bonheur Children's Hospital.
Yeah.
The Ryan Seacrest Foundation has really given me the platform to talk about what I love in the hospital for patients and families.
That's amazing.
So it's blessing my heart. I feel really, really, really fortunate. And then, I've got an amazing article coming out very soon in a national publication. So I'm looking forward to just talking more about my journey and shining a good light on Memphis as well. Yeah.
I'll see while we're here. So tell people how they can stay connected with you, keep up with you, and follow your journey.
Yes, you can follow me at @I am_Allie Manning on Instagram, Allie Manning on LinkedIn, or Allie-Manning.com. You can find me there.
Y'all heard her. Clock in. Thank you so much for coming to sit down and talk with me. This is so amazing. Like I said, I've talked to people in different sectors of entertainment, but like this, and even just doing the research on you, I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And this is a Black woman doing this, a woman that looks like me, a woman that's in the South. You're doing amazing things. And I'm so happy that you sat down with me today.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you guys so much for watching See the Good. I'll see you next time. Bye.